It's an incredible setup here, incredible matchmaking, incredible storytelling. Oh, you had to come here. All these fighters that step in here, warriors, and all have my respect. And I'm into this game, yeah. We'll be into this, yeah.
And we arrive here in the Maverick Center here in Salt Lake City. Whoever's the king of violence right here, this is going to be a great fight. Early on the target, right hand from my daddy, double jab. Who's the king of violence? I am!
Combat fighting in its purest form, bare knuckle fighting in the city of Angel.
We've got the biggest announcement in the BKFC history we're about to make, so let's make that announcement.
What's up, Knucklemania? The notorious Conor McGregor here. Ladies and gentlemen, the huge announcement that I have for you today. Conor McGregor, myself, and McGregor Sports and Entertainment is now an owner of Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship. Welcome to the big leagues. David Feldman, baby, we did it.
He's now an owner of BKFC with us, and we're going to take this motherfucking thing all the way to the top now.
Welcome to hour number 2, live right here on the early line on SportsGrid on this Tuesday morning. He is Donnie right side. I am Ben Stevens. Plenty of Olympic coverage in this second hour. DRS, one thing we failed to mention in yesterday's headlines from around the Olympiad in Paris, the United States women's rugby team on to the semifinal for the first time in Olympic history. Who awaits on the other side? Portia Woodman and the All Blacks of New Zealand. But Alana Marr, if you have not seen her run the rock on a rugby pitch, I recommend you do that. That will go and start in just about half an hour over in Paris for a spot in the final and a chance for a gold. We'll provide updates as we see fit throughout this second hour. Our guy Keith Stewart will join us next to preview Olympic golf that starts on Thursday in the men's event and the women's event the week following. And we'll have Jacob Camenker here for a second consecutive day to look all around the Olympics over in Paris. But we start with some football conversations and some quarterback talk on this Tuesday morning.
Absolutely, and rightfully so, because in 48 hours or so, we're going to have the NFL action live on your TV from the Hall of Fame game. Looking forward to that. Chicago Bears, Houston Texans, nobody's going to play, but do you know what's going to happen in that game, Ben? We are going to get the first look at kickoff coverage and how that is going to play out. So something actually to watch for once in the preseason. How about that?
Yeah, it's going to be a ton of fun. It has sparked some controversy. Of course, there is conversation. If you are on the forefront, you can take advantage of those new kickoff rules in the National Football League. Also, if you're getting paid the big bucks at the quarterback spot, you are now expected to deliver. Donnie, as we have shared, right, you pay for promise. You pay for prospect. You do not pay because of what has happened and pedigree. When you look around the National Football League and the quarterbacks that have been raking in the big bucks, 4 of these 5 highest paid quarterback salaries, of course, on an average annual basis, have been extended this offseason. And Joe Burrow at the very end of the offseason last summer for Cincinnati. Jordan Love, Trevor Lawrence, Tua Tagovailoa, and Jared Goff all inking those new deals this offseason, all making $53 million or more. So, as we have a quarterback conversation, of the quarterbacks who have signed a new deal or those still in the running for a hopeful new contract extension, who is the first to match the money with a championship? Who wins a Super Bowl first? That was the question to you all in Fade the Public. At SportsGrid on Twitter, which quarterback will win a Super Bowl first? Here were the four options. Dak Prescott, who is yet to be paid by Dallas, Jordan Love, Trevor Lawrence, both making $55 million, the most in National Football League history, and Tua Tagovailoa at $53.1 million, the fourth highest paid quarterback in the history of the NFL. In most of the public, going with Jordan Love. More than 51% of the public saying Jordan Love is the guy to deliver a Lombardi Trophy first for his organization. That, of course, would be to the Green Bay Packers.
And I absolutely agree with the public here. Now, last week, 2 weeks ago, putting the public on suspension with some of their voting practices here, I didn't agree with here. I absolutely agree with this. And they nailed it from both ends of the spectrum. If you have four quarterbacks listed here, and of course, some people voting with their, own individual players, and we love to see that as well. But let's just focus on the four that we have listed here. Dak Prescott, Jordan Love, Trevor Lawrence, and Tua Tagovailoa. Who's getting the most votes right now? And the guy I voted for is Jordan Love, 51.4. I'll explain that in a second. Dak Prescott getting 10%, the low end of the totem pole, makes too much sense here. Now let's go over why these individuals are getting these voting numbers. Jordan Love, to me, looks like he's ready to take that next step in the NFL. On a franchise here that surrounds him with talent, you figure he has a long runway. The next 10 years should be pretty exciting in Green Bay. And I think he has a legitimate chance over those 10 years to win a Super Bowl. But if we take a look at the opposite end, yeah, of course, Dak Prescott. You might even be able to argue Dak Prescott individually might be the most talented quarterback on that list. But who does Dak Prescott play for? The Dallas Cowboys. They don't win anything. They don't win in the playoffs. They don't win anything. They haven't done so since the mid-1990s. So we're looking at Dak Prescott saying he's got to overcome the Dallas Cowboys and Jerry Jones as that huge anchor weight right now that's tying him to the bottom of the ocean. He has no shot to win. Why? Because the Dallas Cowboys have no shot to win. You take a look at Trevor Lawrence. Ton of talent here. Only 16.9% of the votes. Understandably, that talent just hasn't matriculated into the NFL in deep postseason success. Tua Tagovailoa, love the kid. Love the Miami Dolphins. They'll win double digits. But I still worry about the injury process over his career. So if we're just narrowing everything down, it makes the most sense right now. Jordan Love has a great head coach. Looks like he's going to be a great quarterback in a good scheme, and he's going to play for the next 10 years. Jordan Love was my vote as well. Completely agree with the way the public went here, Ben.
I think despite having the least amount of sample size and maybe the most proven background at this moment, Jordan Love is the right way to look. There is the most optimism around Love and the Packers of any of these quarterback and franchise duos that we see here. Now, it's not all on Dak Prescott. The fact that since 1995, the last Super Bowl championship for the Cowboys, in their 13 playoff appearances, they have never gone past the divisional round or reached even the NFC championship game. But his postseason record is not stellar, just 2-5. So there are questions about Dak Prescott and the ceiling that he brings the Cowboys to. Trevor Lawrence, the playoff victory in his second year. There was only optimism in Duval County. I think if we would have asked this question last offseason, Trevor Lawrence probably would have run away with this poll. He was banged up down the home stretch last year. The Jaguars dropped 5 of their final 6 games. The Texans come out of nowhere to win the AFC South. That division will be the focus of Win Total Tuesday, live right here on the early line starting in this second hour. But, of course, the Jags kind of went off the tracks to end out last season. I still remain hopeful for Jacksonville. Tua Tagovailoa, the offense, not the question. The production, not the question. The stats and the points, not the question. In South Florida, it's the overall team, and is Tua that X factor and difference maker to elevate Miami as a franchise to a true Super Bowl contender. Now, Jordan Love and Dallas, where it stands right now, 8-1 for the Packers, 8-1 for the Cowboys, both tied for the 4th best price to win the NFC Championship. It is the only number of these 4 groups of the group of 4 quarterbacks that we see here that has grown shorter in terms of conference championship contention throughout this offseason. It's not just because of Love, but the Packers have a lot of hope entering this 2024 campaign.
And I think a lot of the voting practices here, Ben, went that way because you're looking at this season and the excitement around the ball club. I have pretty good vibes around the Miami Dolphins. You paid your quarterback here. You bring in Odell Beckham Jr., who I really don't think is going to be that big of a, person on the field dominating, but he's clearly liked in the locker room. And you have those other superstar wide receivers on the opposite end. Jordan Love, good foundation in Green Bay, as we pointed out here. Even Trevor Lawrence down there with Doug Peterson in Jacksonville. The vibes are way higher for me than what we saw at the Dallas Cowboys. And I think it has a lot to do with Jerry Jones. Hey, look at this off season. Fans, get ready. We are all in. Ooh, I wonder who they add. Then they had a damn thing this offseason, just pissed off more of their players than not. So that's why Dak Prescott is also catching that shrapnel at 10.8% of the votes. Because what happens if that offseason would have went differently? Dak got paid, lowered his cap number. CeeDee Lamb got paid. They brought in another wide receiver on the opposite end. They made some moves on defense. Say, hey, you know what? They might be primed to win this division once again. But those vibes are so low in Dallas right now, and the voting public agrees with it. Roughly 11% going with Dak. And it's not so – Dak's going to have a very good regular season just like he always does. Dak's probably going to make the Pro Bowl, but Dak's not going to win a damn thing in Dallas. And that's what the question was. Who's going to win the Super Bowl? Certainly ain't Dallas.
DRS, there's a chance that Dak Prescott actually runs away and wins this vote. Not in the Fade the Public poll, but Dak Prescott might win a Lombardi Trophy next year with some team not named the Dallas Cowboys. Because they have not paid him. And it's the final year of his contract. That's where things stand at the moment. An Olympic golf preview up next. The staple of consistency within the AFC North, that's the Pittsburgh Steelers. 17 years under Mike Tomlin, never a losing record, never less than 8 wins.
You add Patrick Queen there over from your division rival. You take a look at that offensive line, which does have some question marks, but still a decent wide receiving core that they have, a running game that has Najee Harris, and a quarterback that's been there, done that.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Where are you at in terms of a starting lineup, what you want to see from Team USA?
I think he'll get guys involved, and then there's your lockdown defender at the point guard, the point of attack, right? I do like Curry. I would then go with Ant. I like Ant over Booker. I think if you look at the way the Canada game was, they looked kind of slow starting, and then they kind of got rolling.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
He talked about Major League Baseball and its rule, or actually its relationship with sports betting and gambling.
Integrity is the foremost concern, and a lot of people are questioning that given all the scandals, right? There's Mercano, there's Pat Hoberg, one of the best umpires in MLB, suspended right now. We don't exactly know what he did, but he's been disciplined, and he hasn't umpired a game this year.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
Your mustache is falling.
Dash is falling off. It's got to go. Skeen's got another strikeout that I don't want to take. As soon as I take it off, they're going to give up a run. I'm trying to keep it on until he comes out of the game. It's all over the place. Come on. I'm superstitious.
He's got 10. He's got 10 Ks.
He's cruising. Wow.
They pulled Skeens, by the way.
Yeah, they pulled him. Yeah.
Okay. Do that.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
Olympic golf begins this week over in Paris. It starts on Thursday, so to get you set for the best golfers in the world in the hunt for a gold medal, Keith Stewart joins us here on this Tuesday on the Early Line on SportsGrid. Keith, as always, we appreciate the time. Thank you for joining us here on the Early Line.
Ben, it's a pleasure to be with you. And the only place that's hotter than Paris right now is Read the Line. We just came off a double win Sunday. I had Johnny Vegas plus 8,000. He wins the 3M. And then later that night in Calgary, the ladies, Lauren Coughlin, first victory of her LPGA career. She finishes it up there in the Women's Canadian Open at plus 4,000. 120 to 1 on a Sunday. Let's roll into the gold medal talk. I'm ready.
80 to 1, 40 to 1. Let's hope to catch some big tickets this week over in France as well. Keith, let's start with the format. Only the third year that Olympic golf has really been back in our lives since the very early days of the Olympiad. 2016 in Rio de Janeiro, it was Justin Rose taking home gold. 2021 in Tokyo, it was Xander Schauffele's first major career event. Of course, 2 major championships this year during 2024. So what is the format of the Olympic golf on the men's side that we are going to see over in Paris?
Well, I'll tell you what, we haven't reinvented the wheel here. It's 4 days of individual stroke play. It is very similar to a PGA Tour event. Starts on Thursday. It's going to end on Sunday. It's 60 players, and it's actually very close to a PGA Tour event these days because it's a limited field with no cut. So they're going to get 4 days, and they're going to play for 3 places. And that's kind of the unique aspect of all of this is that first place does get you gold. For a lot of these guys, though, just winning a medal would be a big deal. If you remember back in 2021 in Japan, there was a 7-way tie for the bronze medal. And CT Pan ended up winning. But in that playoff in Japan, you had Hideki, you had Colin Morikawa, you had Rory, you had Paul Casey, you had a bunch of names. And it's not often that you see a 7-man playoff for third place. So there is some uniqueness to the event this week.
Taking a look at the actual event itself, where it's being played, Keith, tell us a little bit about the event and also how this golf course plays into it and maybe some of the players that might benefit from this golf course.
Well, we are going to Le Golf National, which is a staple on the DP World Tour. Every fall, they play the Open de France there. It is the French Open, per se, as we would say over here. It is also the host of the 2018 Ryder Cup. Now, I wouldn't put a lot of stock in those matches or who played well there. The design of the golf course and the way that they set it up was to try to hamper the Americans from playing well. I mean, they grew the rough really high. They pinched a bunch of fairways. This is going to be set up much more like a DP World Tour event. I think that scoring will be prevalent. Over the last 5 years, the average winning score has been 12 to 13 under par in the Open de France. So people that have played in the French Open and are stalwarts over there on the DP World Tour are definitely folks that I'd be favoring, Donnie. And we have 30 rookies in this event, and that's half the field, 4 of whom are the American players. Scotty, Xander, Colin, and Wyndham Clark have not played a competition here before.
Yeah, that 2018 Ryder Cup team for the United States did not feature Scotty Scheffler. Xander Schauffele just very closely missing out on points qualification, so it's new ground for them over at Le Golf National. So now let's look at the actual odds, Keith, and get those early leans here on the early line for Olympic golf. We had the conversation last week after the Open Championship. Who should be the PGA Tour golfer of the year? Is it Scotty Scheffler, his green jacket, his 6 PGA Tour victories this season? Or is it Xander Schauffele? 2 major championships and 2 other top 10s. We can see what the gold medal race looks like. Scheffler, the favorite, plus 360, but less than $2 behind. It's Xander Schauffele at a plus 550 price. Is it a 2-golfer race? Both coming from the American side.
Well, I'll tell you what, I would be worried about the lack of course experience there. There's 6 guys under 20 to 1, under plus 2,000, and 2 of whom are John Rahm, who's coming off, winning Live London. He has course experience there. He's been there a couple times. He's got 2 top 10s. And then there's another name, Rory McIlroy. He's been there a couple times, competed, and he has 2 top 5s. Of the other guys up there at the top, Colin Morikawa, Ludwig Aubert, they have not played this golf course before. The golf course is kind of quirky. It is very positional. It is one of those golf courses over here on the PGA Tour. They always pick a certain type of player. It is not one of those that features length over accuracy. It is the opposite of that. So I think that some of the superpowers of Scotty Scheffler are a little bit hindered. And if I'm picking one over the other, Xander over Scotty, for all the reasons that Xander won Royal Troon, you would have to think that Xander is the favorite here again. Do we live in a world where a guy's going to win 2 majors and defend his gold medal? Well, if there was one guy who could do it, it would definitely be the X-Man.
If we're looking at this tournament, Keith, and typically the international flavor usually adds to the excitement here. When you take a look at the Ryder Cup, the crowds are really into it. Is this more of like a PGA golf crowd, or is there going to be wild cheering with people rooting for their nation and or golfers at the same time?
I think it's going to be much more like a Ryder Cup or even a World Cup crowd. And, one of the big questions I have this week, DRS, is what is your motivation for winning a medal? For the guys over there, for Scotty, running around with Meredith, his wife, and his kid, and they're at the Louvre looking at the Mona Lisa. He's going to watch ping pong matches. I'm not quite sure what his motivation is. Sure, he wants to win a gold medal. But when you talk about a guy like Shane Lowry, who's got on the front of the boat and was the flag bearer for Ireland, or you're talking about Tom Kim, a person that's like facing, career question marks because he has mandatory military service coming up in South Korea. What is your motivation to win a medal? I think that's the biggest question you have to answer before building your betting card this week.
So, Keith, let's take some of those early leans here on the early line. What are some of the odds you are looking at and the players associated in the final minute of this segment?
I love Shane Lowry at plus 2,400. He won at Royal Portrush in front of a home crowd, so he can handle that kind of pressure. I also love Tom Kim for the reasons I just outlined. How about a couple of bombs? You've got Victor Perez and Matthew Pavone playing at home. They're going to know the golf course better than anybody, and both of them are pushing triple digits as far as the odds go.
Yeah, it will be very exciting this week at Le Golf National over in the suburbs of Paris. Keith Stewart, as always, we appreciate the time here on this Tuesday on the early line on SportsGrid. Donnie and I turn our attention back to the QB conversation around the National Football League. Up next on TEL. The staple of consistency within the AFC North, that's the Pittsburgh Steelers. 17 years under Mike Tomlin, never a losing record, never less than 8 wins.
You add Patrick Queen there over from your division rival. You take a look at that offensive line, which does have some question marks, but still a decent wide receiving core that they have, a running game that has Najee Harris, and a quarterback that's been there, done that.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Where are you at in terms of a starting lineup, what you want to see from Team USA?
I think he'll get guys involved, and then there's your lockdown defender at the point guard, the point of attack, right? I do like Curry. I would then go with Ant. I like Ant over Booker. I think if you look at the way the Canada game was, they looked kind of slow starting, and then they kind of got rolling.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
He talked about Major League Baseball and its rule, or actually its relationship with sports betting and gambling.
Integrity is the foremost concern, and a lot of people are questioning that given all the scandals, right? There's Mercano, there's Pat Hoberg, one of the best umpires in MLB, suspended right now. We don't exactly know what he did, but he's been disciplined, and he hasn't umpired a game this year.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
Your mustache is falling off. It's got to go. Skeen's got another strikeout that I don't want to take. As soon as I take it off, they're going to give up a run. I'm trying to keep it on until he comes out of the game. All over the place. Come on. I'm superstitious.
He's got 10. He's got 10 Ks.
He's cruising. Wow.
They pulled Skeens, by the way.
Yeah, they pulled him. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
Live right here on the early line on this Tuesday morning. We are less than 10 minutes away from a rugby semifinal in a historic one taking place at the 33rd Olympiad. For the first time since rugby has returned to the Olympics, the Americans, the U.S. women's team, has made it to the semifinal round. However, On the other side, it is New Zealand. Donnie, I just checked the odds. You can wager on the game. There is a point spread. We are a 19.5-point underdog against the Kiwis. 19.5 points in rugby sevens? Alana Marr, our superstar. Portia Woodman, an absolute superstar. One of the most feared players in women's rugby history ever, will do battle at the Olympic Games in just a little bit. But 19.5. New Zealand is minus 4,000 on the match money line. Goodness.
Yeah, but what's the scoring? Is it a touchdown get you 7? Is it even called a touchdown? What is it?
Come on, man.
Like, what's the scoring structure out here? Come on.
I know it's called a try. I don't know much more about rugby than that. I will show my cards. I am not a rugby aficionado. I just love the way
we have to take
that
you off.
Marr.
Yeah, we got to take you off the network. We got to take you off the network.
Listen,
I mean, come on now.
I'm trying to be honest, right? I'm trying to be honest.
Make it till you make it.
I'm still breaking down what we have, right? I'm still laying the table, setting the stage for what we have here and giving you the betting analysis and the odds. I know that we beat Great Britain 17-7 yesterday.
Can I ask you a question on this too? Like, since we're on talking the Olympics here, why does it say like England? Why is Great Britain? Like, why isn't England? Like, can you differentiate that for
the
me
United
real quick?
Kingdom? It's the United Kingdom.
The United Kingdom, Great Britain, and England. Like, you allowed to use all three? Like, what do you do here?
I think now we're getting into some politics over across the pond, but England is its own nation where the big cities like London and Manchester and Essex all reside. The United Kingdom and Great Britain, I believe, includes Scotland and Wales, which rounds out Great Britain, or maybe it's just England and Scotland for Great Britain, and the United Kingdom adds in the Welsh, and I think that gets into independence in terms of national pride. I don't. Now you're making see.
Yeah. All right.
Oh no, they're Irish, but then Northern Ireland is included in the United Kingdom.
See that? Like, I think it's a cheat code there. You can just whenever you want. Like, hey, by the way, England's 2-0 in the World Cup. Well, yeah. Well, now we'll just go under Great Britain next year, get a clean slate. I like the way they think over there. Pretty smart.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we got 50 states. Our land mass is bigger than pretty much every other country outside of like Russia and China and India. So, all right.
Yeah. All right.
Back to what we were going to discuss here. Not women's rugby at this moment. But DRS, earlier in the show, we were talking about so many things at the Olympic Games and Major League Baseball recaps and, of course, previewing trade deadline day in the bigs that kind of stuffed into the last segment of 7 in 7 to open up the show was that when the Jets broke out pads yesterday for the first time during training camp, it was not a good practice. Aaron Rodgers not happy with how things broke out. They are trying to spin it in the best way possible there in Florham Park, but it was a day that was filled with slop and rough play out of Gang Green. Are we reading into anything here, or is it just taking those lumps early in training camp?
You're taking the lumps. Usually that first day of pads here is usually a crisp, high-energy practice because everybody's excited here. It's usually not a sloppy practice. And also, most of the time you save those sloppy practices for like later in the summer. Like just from, personal standpoint back in the day, our worst practice always came, Ben, just the day after Labor Day. We used to have an end of, let's just say, camp scrimmage on a Saturday. They would let us go, so we'd have off Saturday night, Sunday, and Monday, and return back Tuesday. And that was always the worst practice of the entire year. But that came like a month after practice started. I'm not going to buy into it because these guys are professionals. They'll get it worked out. It's not a great sign that you had a sloppy practice, but at least you're recognizing it, and you can rectify that moving forward. I'm just surprised it came this early.
We talked about who was the most likely of the quarterbacks that have been paid this offseason and the one who still has not in Dak Prescott. Who was the most likely to win a Super Bowl? If we had added Aaron Rodgers just for the sake of argument, maybe it would have been a good one. Who wins a Super Bowl first, or maybe with this current team? Jordan Love or Aaron Rodgers? How that would have looked, because both at this moment 18-1. New York to win a Super Bowl and a Lombardi Trophy in 2024. Green Bay 18-1, alongside Dallas, tied for the 9th shortest price around the National Football League. The Jets have invested so much into Aaron Rodgers. Will the sloppiness be cleaned up before the season starts? More around the Olympic Games up next. The staple of consistency within the AFC North, that's the Pittsburgh Steelers. 17 years under Mike Tomlin, never a losing record, never less than 8 wins.
You add Patrick Queen there over from your division rival. You take a look at that offensive line, which does have some question marks, but still a decent wide receiving core that they have, a running game that has Najee Harris, and a quarterback that's been there, done that.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Where are you at in terms of a starting lineup, what you want to see from Team USA?
I think he'll get guys involved, and then there's your lockdown defender at the point guard, the point of attack, right? I do like Curry. I would then go with Ant. I like Ant over Booker. I think if you look at the way the Canada game was, they looked kind of slow starting, and then they kind of got rolling.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid. He talked about Major League Baseball and its rule, or actually its relationship with sports betting and gambling.
Integrity is the foremost concern, and a lot of people are questioning that given all the scandals, right? There's Mercano, there's Pat Hoberg, one of the best umpires in MLB, suspended right now. We don't exactly know what he did, but he's been disciplined, and he hasn't umpired a game this year.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
Your mustache is falling.
Dash is falling off. It's got to go. Ski's got another strikeout that I don't want to take. As soon as I take it off, you're going to give up a run. I'm trying to keep it on until he comes out of the game. It's all over the place. Come on. I'm superstitious.
He's got 10. He's got 10 Ks.
He's cruising. Wow.
They pulled Skeens, by the way.
Yeah, they pulled him. Yeah.
Okay. Do that.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
An Olympic assessment for a second consecutive day with Jacob Camenker live right here on this Tuesday from Sporting News on the early line on SportsGrid. Jacob, welcome back. Glad to have you here for a second straight day to look at all that we saw yesterday in the Olympic Games and preview some more events later on this Tuesday afternoon into the evening hours over in Paris. Jacob, of course, thanks for being here once again.
I'm glad to be here, ready to run through a wall watching Team USA get all these medals, man.
And a great start yesterday for Team USA women's basketball in its chase for an 8th consecutive gold, a 26-point blowout over Team Japan in the Olympic opener. The United States covering as a 22.5-point favorite, a total of 160 and a hook goes over. Jacob, you said that what you wanted to see out of Team USA in the opener was that dominance. It is expected they win a gold medal and do so rather easily. Can they just impress the entire way through? Certainly looked the part yesterday in the opener against Team Japan. What was your favorite thing you saw yesterday out of Asia Wilson, Brianna Stewart, and the rest of the American side?
Yeah, my favorite thing I saw was just their ability to take their height, the big advantage they had over Japan's size, and turn that into a way to win the game. I mean, if you look at Brianna Stewart, Brittany Griner, and Asia Wilson, they combined for 57 points, 30 rebounds, and 8 blocks during the game. So they were really the engine that kept this U.S. offense going, and Chelsea Gray was involved as well. She only had 2 points but had 13 assists. She just continued to distribute the ball very well. And the United States, maybe they got off to a slower start than you want, but in the first Olympic game, that's often what happens. There's a little bit of nervous energy. Japan was very good from deep early in the game. I think if there's one thing that Team USA can look at in this game that they want to improve, it's their perimeter defense, because Japan did make 15 three-point shots, but really, they have to feel good that their bigs are ready to go, and they have the personnel with Chelsea Gray and Diana Taurasi and some of these other veterans to get the ball into the interior and help them to score. So I think as long as they're dominating in the paint and the glass, it's going to be really hard for any country to beat them, let alone challenge them.
Gold medal, Jacob, expected here for the women's national team. If we take a look here, finally, it feels like since 2008, we switched sports over to the U.S. Olympic men's gymnastic team. They get a medal, and it's a bronze medal. Frederick Richard and the boys, a Michigan man, leading the way. Talk about us how this came about here and also how exciting it was to watch.
Yeah, it was really a thrilling event for the United States because they went in without much momentum. They weren't great in qualifying. They had some uncharacteristic slips. Brody Malone, who was the star of their team, was not good in qualifying. He didn't even qualify for the all-around, which was surprising. But almost every player on Team USA was near perfect yesterday. You mentioned Frederick Richard. He was great. Brody Malone had some fantastic routines. Paul Judah just came through every single event that he was on, felt like he was performing well. But the real hero was Steven Netarasic. I mean, the decision to put him on the roster was viewed as kind of maybe not controversial, but some people were saying, do you really just want a single event specialist when we have 6 events that we have to worry about? Well, given how good Netarasic is on that pommel horse, it made sense to keep him on. And his ability to come off of that bench with 3 hours basically on the sideline and just put together a near perfect performance there to guarantee the U.S. bronze medal, it was fantastic. And they just looked crisp throughout their routines. You could tell the energy that was flowing through their bench was just very high, and they felt very confident. So I think it was surprising to see them do so well after a middling qualifying round. But it just goes to show you, in gymnastics, when you have your best day, you can beat just about anyone. And they came pretty close to getting that silver medal, but getting the bronze is going to feel great after a 16-year medal drought.
First medal since 2008 for USA men's gymnastics. Everybody as a part of the United States team getting Steven Netarasic to the finish line. And then he bursted right through, delivering on the pommel horse for Steven Netarasic yesterday. What a moment it was over in Paris. If you haven't seen the clip, I highly recommend. You get chills. You can feel the electricity. Will the American men on the pitch for U.S. men's soccer deliver today? Final game of group play action against Guinea. Now, the United States, a hefty favorite, minus 220 in the match money line. Jacob, would you categorize this match against Guinea as a must-win for the Americans to advance?
I think so. I think this is a classic case where you have to kind of take care of business. And yeah, they could draw and be okay, but you just don't want to leave it in the hands of France and New Zealand just in case, if New Zealand is somehow able to upset France, then all of a sudden things aren't looking too good there. So I think they got to focus on beating Guinea. They got to find a way to do it. And Guinea hasn't been a slouch in this tournament. They've allowed 3 goals throughout their 2 games. They've scored twice, so 2 one-goal losses. So they're going to be able to keep this closer than people might realize. Their defense has been pretty solid. They outpossessed New Zealand last game. So I'm not writing this in as an immediate USA win. They should be able to get the job done, but it might be a little trickier than people realize.
Jacob, if we take a look at the odds here at the FanDuel Sportsbook here to win the men's Olympic soccer championship here and grab the gold, France is a plus 150 price, Spain plus 220, Argentina 6-1, and Team USA at a 29-1 price. So if we take a look at not necessarily winning the gold, is there a realistic chance that Team USA can advance and possibly even medal in this Olympic round?
I think they can advance. They probably should advance. I think the question with them is going to be, can they do enough to medal? They have some good young talent. I like Gianluca Busio a lot, and Walker Zimmerman is a steadying presence for them. But anytime you get an under-23 team, even with those 3 overage players on the roster, it gets tricky to project out exactly what they can do. If they get hot at the right time and they all sort of gel and come together, they could go on a little bit of a run. But I think some of these other countries like France and Spain, they have these development programs that more readily get these players available to play and just have them in sharper form. So I think the United States team is still probably coming together a little bit from that perspective.
Yeah.
So I think getting up to the top tier might be difficult. But like I said, if they get hot, it's possible.
You see that 29 to 1 price on the United States in the men's soccer tournament. The Americans, the favorites, though, in the women's soccer tournament, ever so slightly, plus 165, 10 cents in front of Spain, a plus 175 number on the Spanish side. Jacob, elsewhere on this Tuesday, over in France, what are you looking forward to the most at the Paris Olympic Games?
Yeah, I think based off the excitement we had around men's gymnastics yesterday, I'm very excited to see the Team USA women take the stage. Simone Biles, last time she was in the Olympics, it was the team competition that she had to bow out of when she got that case of the twisties. So I'm thinking that she's going to be really ready to dominate today. And we have the lineups for Team USA for that. And it seems like they're going to use Simone Biles, Jordan Childs, and Suni Lee in all but one event. That will be Jade Carey replacing Lee on the vault. So I'm excited to see what they can do. They were dominant in qualifying. They won by about 6 points in that. So they really should win the gold medal. But gymnastics is such a tough sport where you make one small mistake and the margins get tighter. So I just want to see Team USA go out, dominate, do what they're supposed to do. And it's going to feel like a nice redemption story after they ended up with silver last year despite being favored.
Yeah, Simone Biles, the legend, the greatest to do it. Can she lead the Americans back atop the podium? The odds makers expecting it. Team USA minus 1,100 to win the team all-around gold medal. Jacob Camenker from Sporting News. We appreciate the time as always. Thanks for being here this week on the Early Line.
Yep, thanks for having me, guys. Take care.
Same to you. Win Total Tuesday is back live right here on TEL, starting in our next segment together. It's a breakdown of all things AFC South on this Tuesday. Up next. The staple of consistency within the AFC North, that's the Pittsburgh Steelers. 17 years under Mike Tomlin, never a losing record, never less than 8 wins.
You add Patrick Queen there over from your division rival. You take a look at that offensive line, which does have some question marks, but still a decent wide receiving core that they have, a running game that has Najee Harris, and a quarterback that's been there, done that.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Where are you at in terms of a starting lineup, what you want to see from Team USA?
I think he'll get guys involved, and then there's your lockdown defender at the point guard, the point of attack, right? I do like Curry. I would then go with Ant. I like Ant over Booker. I think if you look at the way the Canada game was, they looked kind of slow starting, and then they kind of got rolling.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid. We talked about Major League Baseball and its rule, or actually its relationship with sports betting and gambling.
Integrity is the foremost concern, and a lot of people are questioning that given all the scandals, right? There's Mercano, there's Pat Hoberg, one of the best umpires in MLB, suspended right now. We don't exactly know what he did, but he's been disciplined, and he hasn't umpired a game this year.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
Your mustache is falling.
Mustache is falling off. It's got to go. Ski's got another strikeout that I don't want to take. As soon as I take it off, they're going to give up a run. I'm trying to keep it on until he comes out of the game. It's all over the place. Come on. I'm superstitious.
He's got 10. He's got 10 Ks.
He's cruising. Wow.
They pulled schemes, by the way.
Yeah, they pulled him. Yeah,
okay. Do that.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
Win Total Tuesday, live right here on the early line on SportsGrid with a focus today on the AFC South. We've done the AFC North. We've done the AFC West. I believe even the AFC East. Now it's time to round out the conference, that being the AFC South. But before we do that, a quick update from the semifinal match between New Zealand and Team USA in women's rugby at the Paris Olympic Games. For the first time in American history, a semifinal appearance in Olympic rugby. 4:14 remaining in the second. Our producer, Joe Frizo, provide the scoring updates, Donnie, for all that you can score in rugby. Now I need a timing and format update, Frizo, if you do not mind, because just over 4 minutes remain in the second. I don't know if that's period. I don't know if that's half, but we're down right now 12-5. You would have to think we're off to a good start covering 19.5. We're only down by 7 right now. Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, the Kiwis getting loose. That's a try. Oh, no. Games are split into 2 7-minute halves, so action is quick, says Joe Frizo. Oh, no. But rugby sevens, Donnie, different than union rugby, of course. That's all 15. What?
Yeah, again,
I just said that.
Union rugby versus non-union rugby, tough scene too. I mean, they get along? Who knows?
I don't know if there's actually like heat between like sevens and 15s. I'm trying to see if that's a scoring update. It did look like New Zealand was able to add some more points on the board. Now a drop kick to add to it. Oh, absolutely through the pipes. Like Justin Tucker out there. Oh, goodness. It might be getting away quick. Might be getting away quick. Maybe I started talking too much. I don't know. I'm trying to get an update. We're showing replays and reactions.
Like time-wise? Like, how long are these? They're quick?
14. Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, but that doesn't
they're
commercial.
fast.
Like, you know what I mean?
Oh, I think they just fly by. There's only 2:40. Only 2:40 remaining in the second. We're down 19-5 right now. Can we hold on here? Can we hold on here to cover 19.5? Can we hold on here to cover 19.5?
Get Belichick
All right,
out
we'll
there.
continue the update.
Come on.
For sure. Yeah. We need Phil Parker, Iowa's defensive coordinator. A lot of them are not able to break free right now. Stoppage right now, 2:26 remains.
Is there a scrum?
We're not allowed to give play-by-play.
They have scrums?
No. They do have scrums, even in sevens, I believe. But no scrum at the moment. Will continue to provide the updates. I heard we were doing something called Win Total Tuesday, if that is correct, looking at the AFC South. Donnie, maybe the most compelling division in my estimation ahead of 2024. Not the best, not the most important, but maybe the most compelling, because there's a lot of optimism for, I would say, at least 3 of the 4 teams in this division in what was a very competitive division down to week number 18. We shared earlier in the show, Jacksonville, the hefty favorite entering last year after winning the divisional crown in 2022. That playoff and dramatic comeback over the LA Chargers in that postseason. Got off to an 8-3 start. Were greater than a minus 1,000 favorite to win the AFC South divisional crown for a second straight year, only to cough it up down the stretch, dropping 5 of their final 6 and allowed a winner-take-all game week number 18 between C.J. Stroud and Houston, Gardner Minshew and Indianapolis, and the Texans prevailing late to claim the division, and of course, a playoff victory as well for the Texans. So Houston enters 2024's NFL campaign as a favorite to win the AFC South for a second consecutive year. 9.5 the win total for the Texans, 8.5 the numbers for both the Jaguars and the Colts. In Tennessee, a 6.5 win total. The Titans, a peculiar team, as we will break down through Win Total Tuesday and our assessment of the AFC South. Big picture first, DRS. How will you judge this division in 2024?
It looks like it's sharp. It looks like those numbers are really sharp, because you take a look at the Texans there, and immediately everybody loves what they did in the offseason. Everybody loves the quarterback play. They got out of C.J. Stroud last year, and you only think the sky is the limit. So you look at that record last year, Ben, and what did it tell you? 10-7. And I added Stephon Diggs, Daniil Hunter on defense, second year under the regime. I'm going to be fine. And that number is only 9.5. I love when I see numbers like that because it really makes you start to think, because everybody's darling is the Houston Texans. Everybody's expecting last year was no fluke. They're going to add on to it this year, which means they should at least get back to 10 wins if they want to win this division. And the FanDuel Sportsbook going to hang that 9.5 out there like a carrot. Oh, my goodness, man. I can't wait to see how this plays out. But just from a Houston Texans perspective, how can you not be excited about this team? How can you not think C.J. Stroud is going to be in the MVP race? How can you not think that Collins, Tank Dell and Stephon Diggs aren't going to light it up on the outside with a quality tight end with Schultz? And also, if you're expecting to win football games, how do you close those out with a devastating pass rush that they expect to have next year? And yet again, Ben, 9.5 is that win total. Whoa, buyer beware.
A good defense under DeMeco Ryans in his first year as the head man in H-Town. They made many moves to bolster that defensive line this offseason as well. Not just the big prized acquisition of Stephon Diggs, but the extension of Nico Collins, who was actually C.J. Stroud's top target during his rookie campaign. Dalton Schultz, the tight end, extended. It is only hope. It is only optimism. It is only expectation now for the Texans. But that's the interesting thing, Donnie. 9.5 the win total. The over has the hefty juice at -150. Expected to be a double-digit win team. But how does it go from being the Hunties to from the Hunters to the Hunties? They came out of nowhere last year with a rookie head coach and a rookie quarterback. Can they match that expectation? I think that's the main question for the Texans.
Yes, and that is going to be, because the expectations are always for teams to get better. That's not always the case here. Now, what would shock us a little bit, right? What we saw to C.J. Stroud as a rookie, and you say to yourself, this guy was phenomenal. The sky is the limit next year, and he should be able to dominate once again. And instead of being maybe on the outside of that MVP conversation, be the front runner through September. That's high expectations. And also, let's keep in mind, defensive coordinators are some of the sharpest people on the planet. You gave them 17 games plus the playoffs to get ready for C.J. Stroud next year. Let's see what they can do. I'm excited about this division because of the opportunities, and I really do like the Houston Texans and still think they deserve to be the favorites in that division here.
We've got plenty more around the AFC South coming your way up next. The staple of consistency within the AFC North, that's the Pittsburgh Steelers. 17 years under Mike Tomlin, never a losing record, never less than 8 wins.
You add Patrick Queen there over from your division rival. You take a look at that offensive line, which does have some question marks, but still a decent wide receiving core that they have, a running game that has Najee Harris, and a quarterback that's been there, done that.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Where are you at in terms of a starting lineup? What you want to see from Team USA?
I think he'll get guys involved, and then there's your lockdown defender at the point guard, the point of attack, right? I do like Curry. I would then go with Ant. I like Ant over Booker. I think if you look at the way the Canada game was, they looked kind of slow starting, and then they kind of got rolling.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
He talked about Major League Baseball and its rule, or actually its relationship with sports betting and gambling.
Integrity is the foremost concern, and a lot of people are questioning that given all the scandals, right? There's Mercano, there's Pat Hoberg, one of the best umpires in MLB, suspended right now. We don't exactly know what he did, but he's been disciplined, and he hasn't umpired a game this year.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
Your mustache is falling off. It's got to go. Skeen's got another strikeout that I don't want to take. As soon as I take it off, they're going to give up a run. I'm trying to keep it on until he comes out of the game. It's all over the place. Come on. I'm superstitious.
He's got 10 Ks.
He's cruising. Wow.
They pulled Skeens, by the way.
Yeah, they pulled him. Yeah.
Okay. Do that.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
I've got an update from the semifinal over in Paris in rugby sevens on the women's side. The first time that the Americans have ever reached the semifinal since rugby sevens became an Olympic sport back in 2016. Very difficult going against one of the gold medal favorites in New Zealand. The Americans do not pull off what would have been a David versus Goliath type upset, but they do cover. Good teams win, great teams cover. The USA does lose 24-12 against New Zealand, but covers as a 19.5-point underdog. That means, Donnie, that the United States will play in the bronze medal match at 1 p.m. Eastern time this afternoon, trying to medal for the first time in American history at the Olympic Games.
Let me ask you a question on this, too. Like, I think I'm correct on the sport, right? When you score, why do you have to, like, dive into, like, the end zone or the scoring area?
You got to
like,
get
what's
the ball
the
down.
point of that?
Ball's
Why,
got to
though?
touch
Like,
the turf. I know that much.
Interesting. All right.
I don't know.
Well,
I don't know why, but that's why I know that's what you have to do.
Yeah.
Enough with your rugby questions, man. Text Friezo like
Yeah.
I do when I need a question answered live on air. All right, we continue on Win Total Tuesday around the AFC South. We shared our takes on the Houston Texans. Donnie, the question is, can they match the hope and the optimism now with expectation in H-Town? Do you think the Texans will do that? In fact, will they win the division? Will they be a double-digit win team once again this season?
Look, I actually think there's a legitimate chance to have two double-digit win teams in this division. That's the Texans and the Jaguars, which we're going to get to momentarily. And also, the Jaguars were the it team of that division just 1 year ago. Now the Texans seem to be the it team here. There's question marks with the two other teams that, again, we'll talk about in just a bit. But for my money right now, I always like momentum, right? Like there's more question marks to me on the Jaguars, the way they played out their season coming into this year, than what the Houston Texans were. Because the Texans had that upward trajectory at the end of the season. Young superstar quarterback, add to the talent level, which looks like that offense should absolutely be a humming this year and be fantastic. I do give the slight nod to the Texans, but sometimes when you take that team that was on the pedestal before and knock them off, that gives you a little bit of a chip on your shoulder at this point. And there's a lot of talent on that Jaguars team. So for me, Texans and the Jaguars, rightfully so at the top of the standings. Both, to me, honestly, legitimate chances each to get 10 wins this year.
So you see the gap now, right? Plus 154 Houston, short favorite to win the AFC South divisional crown for a second straight year. The Jaguars have moved back at plus 270. I'm not exactly sure in March when the divisional odds for the 2024 campaign opened up, but I know when they did, I bet Jacksonville. It was a 2-1 price. They were only 5 cents behind Houston. The Texans were the short favorite at plus 195. Much with the thought that you just laid out on the Jaguars. They were the it team at this point last offseason. They had the young superstar quarterback in Trevor Lawrence. They were riding the momentum over after an unlikely postseason victory against the LA Chargers and a very talented roster. And they looked good. 8-3 through week number 12 last year. Minus 1,000 or even greater the price on the Jaguars to win the AFC South title for a second consecutive year. And then things got off the tracks. Trevor Lawrence, a guy that more than anything has been available and out there throughout his college and NFL career, missed the first game of his 3-year NFL career, was banged up with a litany of injuries, and never really looked right down the stretch in the most significant games when Jacksonville needed him to be. I'm not giving the Jags a pass. They coughed it up. They had every opportunity to still win the division and earn a playoff berth for a second consecutive year. But if Trevor Lawrence is healthy, and I expect him to be, I think the Jaguars have a great shot of rivaling the Texans for the top spot in this division.
Not in love with the Jaguars' offensive line, but let's just say they get some decent offensive line play. Why aren't we cooking? We got weapons at wide receiver, at tight end, in the backfield, and a quarterback. And also focusing on that defense here. That's still a solid secondary with a couple athletic linebackers. But more importantly, let me tell you something about this guy, JHA over there. They used to have a guy named Josh Allen last year. Great pass rusher, lives it up. Now they got a guy named Josh Hines Allen, maybe the best pass rusher in the game. This team should do some damage this year. The expectations of last year should transfer over to this year. I think 8.5 is a low number because also the expectations with that big contract for Trevor Lawrence, he knows this has to be a season that he seizes control of the South. there's a good chance that they win this division, but I would like to bet that over 8.5. I think that makes a lot of sense on the Jaguars this year.
Maybe not in their prime, but a couple of veterans have been added by Jacksonville up front. Mitch Morse, who was the anchor of the Buffalo offensive line at the center spot, and Brandon Scherf make their way over this offseason. Good moves out of the Jags. Hour 3 is up next on the early line.